No, I'm not trying to scope a peek. She just finished laying her eggs. In this video, I'm going to be showing you how I set up my eggs and how I incubate them. It's a very curious one to see, right? You want to know. You want to know.
Every single day, I'm gonna make something great. Don't stop, don't stop, don't stop, don't stop. Scheming, love, scheming. I'ma wait till the time, I love this money, just set it on fire, Don't mean nothing, it's one for the night.
Hey YouTube, Ron here with BBM Reptiles, and today we're going to be pulling a clutch. Now, I pulled quite a few already, but I haven't had the chance to upload any of those egg pulling because it's kind of basic for those that already have it. But for those that actually are new to it, I want to actually show the process of basically how I separate my females, candling them, setting them up, and putting them back in the incubator. And the reason why is just recently I was on a separate YouTube channel, the Whiskey Bomb Network, and we had a debate. It was a very, very interesting topic, as a matter of fact. Now, it was against maternal incubation versus artificial incubation. And basically, I was on the side debating for the artificial incubation. So if you want to see a really, really in-depth and interesting points on both sides of the debate, follow over on this channel, the Whiskey Bomb Networks, and check out the Great Snake Debate. As a matter of fact, on the Whiskey Bomb Networks, you're going to see a lot of incredible topics, not only debates about certain things within the hobby, but also great content with other videos talking about a wide array of topics, not only towards ball pythons, but I would say animals in general. It's a great follow. So guys, follow that link. But before anything, check out that debate. I mean, like, it was on fire. Now, first thing that I want to actually point out is the way that the female is actually tightened up against the eggs. Now, what she's doing is, and this is the thing about maternal incubation, is that the female, she will coil around the eggs, kind of like a honeycomb. And the thing is that what she would do is, if it was maternally incubated, she would basically, generate the warmth within her body and basically do that movement that she's doing right now. And it's kind of making frictions against the eggs, generating heat. So the female, she'll like thermal regulate the eggs to the point that she already knows what she's doing. Now, there is no pros and no cons. And the debate, we talked about that in the other video, and I'm not going to go into that more. But I just want to show you, if I was to let the female maternally incubate the eggs, that would be the process. She would just basically sit on the eggs, and I would wait anyway between 60 or 70 days. But that's not the case. I am going to set her up in an egg box, and I'm going to show you that right now. Now, something that I've seen other people do, and basically it's by comfort level, you'll see that she is in a state that she already passed a certain time of dropping her eggs. Now, she's a lot more alert, and she's in a defensive position. And some people, what they'll use paper towels to bop up on top of the head and just basically drop her defenses down. Now, I've been doing this for a while, so it's basically you get a feel of the females, and the position that it is, that you can actually reach and grab them. Me specifically, I'll just go around the top like I did right here. I'll just go around, I'll just lightly tap her, as you can see, and that way I can get her a little bit less defensive, and I'll pull her off the eggs. Now, pulling her off the eggs, what I want to make sure is she doesn't have any eggs left over. So what I do is I will basically feel the female, and just to make sure that she's empty. And you can see basically from there's like a channel inside. So that alone tells me that she is emptied. So what I want to do is I want to hydrate her. So I will put her in some lukewarm water, basically the same temperature as she was in the rack. And we're going to look and see our egg count. Now, unfortunately, this is what we would call slugs. And there's two types of slugs. Obviously, the ones that are like pretty small, like this one, like the garter clothes. And unfortunately, we got two of them. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 eggs. Let's candle them and see if they're healthy. This is what we're doing. We're candling the eggs. And, you know, there's different ways of doing it. You can use your cell phone. But something that I love to do is basically I just get these cheap flashlights. And this is what I'm looking for. I don't know if you can actually catch it, but you can see the circular movement. That's the center of the egg. That's where the air pocket is starting to form. If I were to catch this female laying, let's say a day later, I was on vacation, I wasn't home or whatever the cause is, it'll set automatically after 24 hours. So it'll stay. That's why they say a lot of time you place it as a lay. But since this is recent, it still has times. As a matter of fact, I can even take this egg and incubate it right there. As you can see, you'll see no veins. You won't see any veins on this side because this is the bottom side. Eventually what's going to happen is like the air pocket will actually start rotating and it'll set up on this side. But since it's already on this side, I want to leave it on that side because that's basically how it is. So first thing I do is I mark that specific area. That way, if whatever reason, if it was to happen, when I place it in incubator and for whatever reason it does roll, I know what position it's supposed to be in. That's why we mark the egg. Now we're going to go to the next one. Check this vein, and already off the bat, you can see the circular motion right there. You can see the circular pattern. I like to wiggle it just a little bit. Okay, we're gonna mark it right there. This is the next one. And we're going off to this one. And guess what? This one, I don't see, okay, yeah, it is. I was about questioning the veins, but I'm seeing it's all around, so it's not an issue. And the air pocket is up right here. So we're gonna mark it right there. But just in case, this is something that that is good to do. I don't see as many veins as I saw on the other one, even though you see there's a good amount of veins. But there's still a question, you know, even though it's dragging away to the bottom. I first thought I couldn't see it, but it's there. So they're good veins. They're good veins. I was questioning it. But sometimes when I do, and I do have a question about the possibility if the eggs can go or not, and I want to know if the one that I candle at the beginning of incubation, towards the end, if it actually goes bad or not, I will put a question mark. A question mark. That way I already identified which is the egg that I might have a question. For example, if you have an egg, this is like rule of thumb. If you have an egg that you're not too sure about, incubate it regardless. Identify it, and if it eventually does go bad, you can basically go by the process of knowing what you caught when the egg was actually first set up at the very first time, that you had a question about it, and then you'll know that your observation was on cue. And that's how you basically learn to train your eye on identifying a good egg and a possibly, you know, egg that won't be viable. So good thing to do is question, always question. Now going on to the next one. And again, this is quick. This is really quick. I mean, it's just like boom. Put that line right there. Not too much of an issue. And look at it. It's on this side, as a matter of fact. You're going all around. And the funny thing is, if we see an infertile egg, let me just give you an idea what an infertile egg would look like. If I was to candle the egg, you would see a golden glow with nothing at all. Just a solid golden glow around the egg completely. But this is the bottom side of the egg. Not saying that it doesn't have vein, because it does. But I just wanted to show you what it would look like if you candle an egg and you don't see the veins. What you'll see is basically a golden glow completely around the egg. Sometimes you see like a drop of red. That's basically like a small vein. Not necessarily it is the embryo, but then again, those are the eggs that I was talking about that incubate them regardless and put a question mark on it, just in case. But flipping this one around, we're going to see the complete veins on this one. And the air pocket area where the embryo is right here. So we're going to mark it right there. So far, this is the last one. And right here, you can see the circular of the embryo. If I just wiggle this again, not going to sing the song, If I wiggle that again, that's where the embryo is. And we got that one. As far as the slugs, you know, you can see this is what I was talking about, that golden glow. There's nothing inside. You see, you could just, as a matter of fact, it kind of looks like Stewie. You know, as a matter of fact, look at the eyes there. I don't want to mess up this marker, but yeah, literally it looks like Stewie for Family Guy. Or if you guys remember, you know, your old school kids out there, those lemon head candies, that's what it kind of looks like. But anyway, if this was a bigger egg to the size of the other eggs that you see, and you would actually candle them, and you would see that golden glow inside, but nothing in it, that's basically an infertile egg. But because of the size, we already know it's a slug, but you will get normal size eggs just as those. And when you candle them and you see it, that golden glow that has no veins, you know that's called an infertile egg. So this is basically, I guess, a better representation, you know, what you would look like if you were actually candle a infertile egg versus a typical size, which is a slug. There's a lot of people that use different types of substrates. Some use Orbeez. I've seen that with great success. Others use water sponges, and others use water. Now this I cannot emphasize enough. Do not try something just because you saw someone else use it. I have to say, and this is with all respect to all other techniques that are out there, graduate yourself from each level. And this being the easiest, which is perlite. Perlite is like, it's very, very simple. When you get into the sponges and the water, there is a risk of the water splashing when you actually move the box to the incubator. And if it splashes on the bottom of the eggs, no matter what type of separation you're using, if you're using the egg crates, or if you're using easy hatch trays or dragon hatch, if it comes with the contact with the water in the bottom, there is a big possibility, a very big possibility, that you will lose those eggs. So before you attempt other methods, I'd say go from the basic and then work your way up as your season progresses and your comfort level, as a matter of fact. I have to emphasize that, your comfort level. Me, if it ain't broke, you don't need to fix it. So what I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna use 2 16-ounce cups of perlites. Now, this is the first one. I know there's talk about measuring 1.1 or 1 cup of perlite per 1 cup of water. Like I said, nothing's written in stone. Go by your comfort zone and what's worked for you, and don't change it from there. Because if you're getting the results that you're supposed to get, why change it? So we're using the perlites. I have to flatten it down to basically get that even amount along the whole box. And as far as measuring the water, this is the thing is, I like to keep water bottles inside my incubator, so when I actually put the water into the perlite, it's already set at the temperature of the incubator. So it's not going to be like too cold or too hot when I'm actually putting the eggs inside the egg box. It's already basically graduated to the same temperature as it already is in the incubator. So the amount of water, this is even easier. It's that 16-ounce bottle. That's it. You don't have to put more than this. So it was 2 cups of 16-ounce of perlite and 1 16-ounce bottle of water. And again, I like to play how I actually set up the water. First, I actually work around the corners, and then I zigzag back and forth, but I empty the whole bottle. Because with 2 cups of the perlite 16-ounce, it's more than enough for the water amount that's in this bottle. And then I'll circle it, I'll zigzag, I'll write my name, BBM on that, with water. And you can see I already emptied it out. This is the important part. You want to make sure you don't have too much water. As you can see, the amount of water that I put in there, it's not to the point that it's, floating on top of the perlite. And what I do is I'll take the corners of the tubs and I like to tilt it over just to see how much water I have. And if it's too moist, exaggerated too moist, then basically what I'll do is I'll just sprinkle a little bit more perlite on top of that. But the amount is fine. I'm bumping the camera, it's actually shaking. So we have there the amount of water that I need. And this is the cool thing, is basically, this is why I like to use either, I personally, I like the Dragon Hatch because it kind of gives more room for the eggs. The Easy Hatch trays are good, but what I don't personally like too much about them is that they're kind of small, because sometimes you get ball python that lay goose-sized eggs, and it's hard to actually, line them up. So, but then again, it's not that easy, especially from here in Puerto Rico, to get your hands on some Dragon Hatch. So what I'm going to do is very important is when I'm placing the tray, I'm making sure that it's not coming in contact with the sides of the walls, because what I do not want is the buildup of condensation touching the hatch rack trays that basically the eggs are on. And because condensation will build up. So there we have it. And as you can see, there's a big space between the perlite, the water, and the tray. So again, let me put that in there, push it down a little bit. And I'm going to show you what I'm talking about basically about the sides, that I just need to make sure that it does not touch the sides of the wall, that the condensation is going to eventually build up. And as time goes on and the incubation process continues, which is basically around 55 to 60 days, you're going to see this whole top area build up with condensation. And if it's going to run, it's going to run to the corners, and it's basically going to drip against the sides of the walls, avoiding to basically falling directly contact on that. I don't want a rainforest basically raining on top of my eggs, and then that's where the mold builds up. The eggs basically, they'll lose, because remember, the eggs, they have to breathe. Now we're going to place the eggs. And remember, this is the reason why I have it marked, because while I am setting up my egg box, I probably forgot what position I had the eggs when I counted the very first time. So not to be redundant and going over saying what position did I have the eggs, I already have it marked. So that's the cool thing about basically marking the eggs. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it there, find the area that basically I feel it's going to fit. And this is what I was talking about, when you're putting on these smaller grinds of the Easy Hatch trays, they're small, so the big size eggs, it's kind of hard. So you got to play with them and put the eggs in an angle. So I'm going to set these eggs up nice and pretty. So basically you can see the end result of how it's going to go into the incubator. So here we have the eggs, and as you can see, the important thing is making sure that it is not touching the sides of the wall. You do not want it to get in contact, because when the condensation does build up, it would basically drip onto the eggs. And the way that I basically set them up, as I was mentioning before, because of the size of the eggs, as long as they fall comfortably in the grill, you won't have an issue. And what I personally like to do is 5 days prior to the due hatch date, I will replace the Easy Hatch tray, and I'll put a flat knitting mesh on the bottom, separate the substrate from the eggs. But 50 days is more than fine. There's not an issue of basically water tampering the eggs and actually losing it. I'm not, we're beyond that point. So again, as you can see, set up, and we're going to put this girl into the incubator. Now, my incubator, I have it in my rodent room, and this rodent room, I have it with air conditioning for the rodents, and because I'm in the tropical area, and the summer, and even sometimes in the winter, the Norwegian rats are basically, it's hard for them to tolerate the heat. So this room is kept at 76 degrees. The incubator is set at 89 degrees. And the beautiful thing of the combination of the both is I don't have to worry about the exterior elements like the sun basically hitting against the wall, or basically because this is a cement room, it'll act like a conductor and basically harvest all the heat from the summer day, and it'll maintain hot. But because the room is cool, it's not going to basically affect the temperature of my incubator, so it'll be stable at 89 degrees. And we're going to put this one in the very bottom. 55 days, we'll see what comes out. Now we go back to Mama, and basically what I do is I change out her tub. This is a brand new tub, cleaned out and put with new bedding. The type of bedding that I use in Puerto Rico is basically I use newsprint. The reason why is we have enough humidity. And the only reason I have aspen is because I like to create a nesting area for the ball pythons. And basically when they're off breeding, or as a matter of fact, when they're off the egg laying part, then I'll put them back on newsprint. She has been hydrated for a while. What I will do is basically I give her like a pat dry down. And giving it a pat dry down, I go through it a second time, again, to guarantee and making sure there's no leftover eggs in her. And Mama, you did great. I'm so happy. I'm proud. And this female actually is the mother of the Desert Coast clown that I have that was bred back to her. So we're gonna put her. She's a good girth. I mean, like, I'm so happy. There's no issues of basically of her getting back to feeding. Well, guys, there you have it. That is my process of what I go through when I'm excited to get a clutch, setting it up and making sure I'm working against all odds to making sure we get a healthy clutch of eggs. Before I go, I want to give a huge shout out to Mike and Melissa of Proxima Reptiles. Thank you very much for the hat. Hit them up on Instagram and at your local shows on the East Coast. And if you're lucky enough to catch them on the Central, even better. Mike and Melissa, thank you very much for the cool swag. I really do appreciate it. And also for also reaching out and contact and the continuing communications that we share between each other. Besides, they're hitting some crazy monarch combos, so you got to check those out. Anyway, guys, again, if you are new, follow us along in this incredible journey of reptile keeping and witnessing what we're still building and developing here in BBM Reptiles, and I'm more than happy to share with you. So until the next video, I will see you in the next one. Have a good season.